No, I'm breaking the rule. I'm breaking the rule. I'm talking about January. I'm talking about transfers. Months. We've still got months, and I'm going to talk about it. Who cares? Because it's the transfers. Oh, we love transfers. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Raw Reaction series, show in which we react to the latest Arsenal news and just talk about Arsenal in general as we look ahead to another tumultuous transfer window. It's currently November, halfway through November, and we're looking ahead to what it could be a really vital transfer window for Arsenal. Now, what other clubs do is also going to have an impact on Arsenal. Liverpool are surprisingly, reportedly not going to be going into the transfer market despite their huge defensive problems, injury-wise, with Gomez and Van Dijk both out, with Alexander-Arnold and Andrew Robertson and Fabinho and Matip all facing fitness and injury problems themselves. And yeah, Arsenal with a hell of a big squad look like they really need to go into the January transfer market and use it. Now, very quickly, some news has broken just as I decided to go live, which is as the way as you run these types of things. It is bound to happen, and it has. Mohamed Elneny has reportedly contracted COVID-19, which means that he will go into an isolation of 10 to 14 days, and that will mean he misses the Leeds game. It will mean that he misses the subsequent Europa League fixtures as well, which is obviously frustrating, but there's nothing we can do about that. The good news is that it's not an injury. It's not something that will keep you out for the long term. It's not something that you have to stay mysterious about. It's something that we know the length of time that he will be out for, and we'll deal with that. Thankfully, centre midfield is an area of the pitch where we've got quite a lot of options, so we should be able to deal with that, okay? And actually, when you look at the performance against Aston Villa and with the opponents that we've got coming up in the next 2 weeks, I'm fine with it. Also, you have to think about the fact that it's Monday and we haven't got a game until Sunday. So that's going to take up a big portion of the time that Elneny will be out for as well. So that's also good news. So if it was going to happen, if it was going to hit anyone, it's good that it's happened now. So we will send Elneny the best of luck. Best wishes is probably the better way to put it, and we hope you get well soon, Mo. I'm sure you'll be fine. So in terms of what we look ahead to January, now there's obviously a name which is going to be on the lips of myself and most of you this January, and it's for a position that is obviously in our most creative part of the pitch. And I don't think there's any, Christopher Fung, who is basically my Szoboszlai, the guy that checks how many times I say it during videos, is going to be very happy because we're going to talk a little bit about him today. And hello, live chat. Thank you for tuning in. So let's talk about what we could do in January. Now, Szoboszlai has a €25 million release clause, if you believe the latest information that we have. And Arsenal have spent a fair chunk of money in the summer and required the help of their owner to come in and fund the move for Thomas Partey. So as to whether Arsenal have much money to spend in January is an issue in itself. I'm going to put myself on the line here and say that I don't think Arsenal are going to make any permanent signings this January window. That's the way I feel about it. That's kind of the way that I see it going. Without Arsenal managing to move off players in a window in which the players that we want to move off have very little time on their contract, with little interest in them, I very much doubt that we're going to be able to get anyone off the books for a significant fee that would help us to reinvest. That's my view. I don't think we're going to sign anyone. There might be a loan, and if it's a loan deal, I think there are some options out there that you could look at. Now, one of the most interesting options is someone that will split opinion, and that is Christian Eriksen, of all people. Christian Eriksen, of course, left Spurs, went to Inter Milan, and has since been underused, I feel, under Antonio Conte. Now, when he was playing for Spurs, however much I hated them, like, if there was one player in that team that I wanted Arsenal to sign and to have and to not play against, most importantly, it was Christian Eriksen. because he's a wonderful player. He's still young-ish. I mean, he's late 20s, but he's in his prime. And looking at what his situation is, a loan for a player like him, I would be completely fine with that. For 6 months, you bring him in, he plays in almost every single game and hopefully plays at the top of his level. Do I expect it to happen? No. I don't know if he would be interested in doing that. I don't know. He would obviously completely cut ties with Spurs in all manner of thinking, and would be viewed as a massive villain amongst their fan base. And some players might not care. Eriksen might not care. He didn't care enough to stay at the club, and he moved on because he wanted to change the scenery and wanted a different challenge. And if there's a challenge to come into, it's definitely Arsenal. So it's interesting to think about Eriksen as a possible option to take on loan. Senki in the chat says, we need a Giroud type striker. Now, I want to touch on something that I found quite amusing over social media. 2020 and Arsenal are two things which are quite collaborative in their reactionary and hyperbolic nature. And the people I saw tweeting out saying that we should be replacing Lacazette with Nikolai Moller right now, hats off to you for new levels of crazy. Because this kid's 18, he's just coming from Malmo, he's not played a senior game, and we want him to come in and replace Alexander Lacazette. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that Lacazette's amazing and he should be starting. I think that he should be given time off. I think he should be given a reality check. But by suggesting that we bring Moller in just because he's a different type of striker and we put a fair few crosses in, I think it goes beyond the realms of what is considered rational. Now, I agree, Senki, that Arsenal do need that other type of striker. There are options out there. Milik, for instance, at Napoli could be someone that Arsenal look at. He's not getting as many minutes as maybe he would like at Napoli, and I don't think he's in their long-term thinking and Gattuso's long-term thinking either. And as someone who could cost between 10 and 20 million pounds, I don't know if you'll do that in January, but it might be someone you could get in arguably on loan with an option to buy in the summer. I think you'll see a lot of loans with options or loans with obligations this January, to be honest, because financially the footballing world is still massively impacted by the pandemic. But that is someone that Arsenal could look at as a backup. Am I saying that Milik comes in to be Arsenal's number one striker? No. Be that type of striker. But Arsenal just need a different dynamic. They need someone that can score goals with their head in the air and be an aerial threat. Because we don't have that right now. And we've lacked that since Giroud has gone. And if you look at most of the teams around, they usually have that kind of plan B option. Like, you look at United, how much success they had with Fellaini. You look at Spurs and how much success they had with Llorente. Like, lots of teams have the option to bring in that type of striker. Chelsea now have that in Olivier Giroud. And he's so highly rated by Didier Deschamps that he plays him and calls him up regularly, even though he's not getting the game time, because that type of striker is really important to have in your base and in your options. So for me, that is something that I would look at. Christopher Funk says we could sign a pre-contract with Ricky Puig, and that would be exciting. I mean, I'd love that to happen, Chris. That'd be amazing. But I still feel like he'll stay at Barca. Ronald Koeman has been not the most optimistic or the most... He's been pretty critical of Puig, to be honest, and almost pretty much gone down the route of saying that he should find another club. But I think that'd be mental to do that. The fact that they keep someone like Carlos Elneny, who I really kind of struggle to rate anywhere near as highly as Puig, I would find that strange. But it's something that Arsenal should look at doing. Why not? Why not sign someone on a pre-contract? Costs you nothing. And then brings a young, exciting talent in and you've instantly already got value. I think that's 100% something that Arsenal should look at doing. Senki reckons that Chris Woods, maybe. Is Chris Wood now playing in the... Is he still playing at Burnley or has he moved? Let me just have a quick check. Chris Wood is currently playing for Burnley. Yeah, so... Would they sell him? Would they let him go? I don't know. But again, this is the type of thing that Arsenal need to not turn their noses up anymore at. Because we've done it time and time and time again, that we've turned our noses up at people that because they're unfashionable, they're not very exciting, and ultimately they've gone on to do great things. Johnny Evans is one of the best examples of that. How silly were the people that turn around saying, nah, it's Johnny Evans, mate. And he went on to perform as one of the best centre-backs for Leicester in the league. And there isn't any argument to that. He has performed as one of the best centre-backs in the league under Brendan Rodgers. And for 10 million quid that we could have got him for, it would have been a great coup at the time. But for me, that's the problem. Tyrone says Zaha and Lamptey. Now, I don't think, Tyrone, you're going to see this type of business take place in January. That's the type of business you'll see take place in the summer. And I just can't see and can't imagine Arsenal doing that type of business in January at all. David Keefe says, Tom, what about Edouard from Celtic again? Really good example, David, but I don't see Arsenal going out and spending what it would take in January to bring in Odsonne Edouard. I just don't see that happening. But in the summer, all for it. I think is a really good option. Iga Arnold says Martinelli has aerial threat. I agree with you. But what I would say is, Iga, is that we can't put pressure on Martinelli to come back after a long-term serious injury and think that he's going to be our saviour. Because it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen in January. You're not going to see him come back and get straight into the first team and start smashing goals. He could do, but I'm not expecting that, and I haven't got the expectation on him that he will either. And so by getting someone in on the short term to cover kind of his transition back into the first team, I think that's important to talk about. Alex McCarthy, who of course joined us on our expert member show and was fantastic. Alex says, Tom, as I've mentioned, our squad is far too big. I feel the priority would be to offload as many as we can whilst drawing up a shortlist for the summer. Our targets won't be leaving their clubs in January. On the first point, I agree. I agree 100% in terms that we need to focus on moving players on. I don't think you're going to see it happen. I think you might see Mustafi sign a pre-contract agreement with someone. I think you might see Ozil sign a pre-contract agreement with someone. But I don't think you're going to see us actually sell players. Annoyingly, because I think it'd be good to get players off the books. On the second part of that, I think some players could still leave. I think someone could in January come on and sign, say, Szoboszlai. I think Milan are very, very interested in him. I think you're going to see Real Madrid's interest in him grow as well. And I think there could be clubs that may want to just get it done, signed, sealed and delivered and get this young guy in. So if that happens, I'm sure that Arsenal will remain informed as much as possible about his situation. If they are very keen on him, I hope that they have the guile to go out and try and get the deal done. But I know that Arsenal are working on, obviously, their transfer targets for the summer. They are already well ahead, the club, in their planning for the summer, in who they want to target, in who Arteta wants to sign. And if you want one piece of evidence to tell you that it doesn't matter what happens to Arsenal this season, Mikel Arteta will be here this summer. That is a near guarantee. We might finish in 8th again, but the club are backing Arteta and he will remain in charge until that time. And you can tell by the reports that are coming up about how the club are planning to work their way into the summer window about how that affects Arteta's future. It would take something catastrophic to change the situation. And I'm not talking about just not qualifying for Europe. I'm not talking about even the Champions League. It would take Arsenal finishing in a really ridiculous position for them to part ways with Arteta, and I think that gives you kind of all the evidence that you kind of need. Michael Headley says there should be some COVID cut price sales around that we should be looking for. Whilst obviously the pandemic is a horrible thing, Michael, you raise a good point in that some clubs are willing to part ways with players for less than they necessarily would have done if we weren't in this state of play, say in the 2019 January window, for instance. So I think that there is opportunities to be had in this window, but I don't think necessarily we're going to be seeing the big deals happen and big money splashed out by Arsenal in the window. Fingers crossed we do. Trust me, I hope we do. But I just can't see it happening. Last word, Gunnar says, Tom, why does Arteta mention Saliba's personal issue when he requested to extend his loan out to play PSG in July when the situation happened? I'm not sure about him bringing up his personal situation. I'm just going to do a quick Google search for that just to make sure that I've not missed anything on that. I don't remember saying that. I don't remember seeing that at all. It's interesting. My article comes up when... that's fun. You Google something and your own article comes up on the news section of Google. That's great. But yeah, I don't see anything else that really comes out about it, to be honest. Let me just give you my thoughts on Saliba because it's something that I wanted to talk about in the window. Saliba has to go out on loan. has to go out on loan. He's not getting into the first. He's not getting into the team. And we're going into the Europa League knockout rounds, fingers crossed that nothing happens during that time, that we're going to be going to knockout rounds. There isn't going to be an opportunity to really play Saliba. He might get a couple of games in the FA Cup if we get drawn against lower league opposition, but that's not enough minutes. He needs to go out on loan. It needs to be going on loan to a team where he's going to play, and it needs to be going out to a team that's playing at a really good, high standard. And so there's options in France, there's options in England, there's options in Spain, there's options in Germany. I'd go Germany, personally. I'd loan him out to somewhere in the Bundesliga to get that experience. But I don't know if that will happen or not, because Arsenal have currently handled that situation so poorly that I'm not given that confidence yet to know whether Arsenal will or not get that situation done correctly. Owen says, speaking of which, Owen, I'm going to be joining Owen on Gooner Crack at 9 o'clock. So Gooner, C-R-A-I-C. That's checking my Irish spelling, but I'm pretty sure that's right. So if you want to hear myself, Drew, John, and Owen, I mean, it's pretty much like the Gooner Talk over on Owen's channel, but we're going to be chatting for an hour or so at 9 o'clock. I'm looking forward to joining Owen and the guys. So yeah, make sure you come and join us on Owen's channel at 9 o'clock UK time. So that's in 25 minutes. But Owen says over £700,000 per week is coming off the wage bill in the summer, and that's when we'll do our business. And you're spot on, Owen. That is when the business will take place. David Ornstein has mentioned that in the past as well, and that's why we're able to plan well ahead of time about what we might try to do in the window. But what needs to be done in the summer window is we need to get deals done well in advance. They need to come in, they need to settle, they need to integrate, and they need to understand what their role is going to be within the club. The 2021-22 season for Arsenal is bigger than this year. It's much bigger. There is so much controversy that is going to be leaving in terms of Ozil, Mustafi, Socrates, maybe David Luiz. There's going to be so much leaving, possibly even Lacazette. A lot of questionable talent, a lot of questionable situations are going to be gone. And that season, it's time for Arsenal to turn over a clean slate and really push on with what I believe is a good coach, someone that can get the best out of the players that he signs. And I'm hoping that we can really kind of deal with that. Guendouzi's situation might be resolved. Torreira might even be resolved. And that could turn into something that benefits Arsenal both in him staying or in him leaving. We'll save that side of things. Tom says Saint-Etienne would be a good place for Saliba, as their Fofana Saliba replacements are out for lengthy injuries. Yes, he would play, but Arsenal's relationship with Saint-Etienne is not good. And I wouldn't blame Arsenal for not going down that route again with the way that things have gone down. It's the same time as I'm a Celeb. If you don't watch I'm a Celeb, you can go check us out over on Owen's channel. Senki says, Tom, would you sign Carlos Soler? Carlos Soler has been one of those players. He's one of those players that gets linked for a very long time. His price tag at the time where he's linked puts teams off because it was like 50, 60 million quid. And for that reason, his price now would drop, but it's not going to drop considerably. And Valencia are in a situation where they can't afford to lose too many more players, but they're in a position where they need to make some money. Would I take him? The reason why I'll say no is because I just think that we need to target better players for the price that Soler would cost. That's my brain thinking about it. That's the way my head works with that. That's not saying Soler's not a good player, Senki. It's saying that Soler would be expensive, and I think that you could possibly get a better, more appropriate target than you could for the same money, if that makes sense. He has 16 new positive tests. I mean, who knew after doing a stupid international break that was going to happen? It's ridiculous. Alex McCarthy says La Liga players would be a great arena to explore. Many of their clubs are cash-strapped and accept lower fees. Would be worth taking a chance on. 100% agree with you. Tashi says Gerard Moreno would be a great signing. I would like Gerard Moreno as a possible option to back up what we've got. It's a good shout, Tashi, and I like it. Yes, I'm going to do a tactical breakdown on Jan and Veer. It's coming in soon. But what I am going to do, I've seen a couple of people tweet me about Brenner, the Brazilian striker. I'm going to look into getting a little bit more information for you guys on him, because I need education as much as you do. For sure. Sam says, if we are smart, we go in and we get Jobosla in January, as there will be too much competition in the summer. Joe says, Tom, if you were a police officer, who would you arrest at Arsenal and why? I'd arrest Kroenke and hope that he'd sell the club onto someone that cares about it a bit more, is probably the best example to use. Renat says, Peter Lim, king of business. He's really not, though, is he? He's really not. Rodney says, Joseph Maseko, personally, I'd give him my uniform to Kolasinac so he can protect our streets. Unbelievable. Sam Chester is going to see Mustafi going to Barcelona. Oh, this link made me laugh so much. Mustafi going to Barcelona. It's the most Barcelona signing ever. It's the most Barcelona thing you've ever seen. Mustafi going to Barcelona. It's just hilarious. It's like the Vermaelen thing all over again. Yeah, really strange. Really strange. Christopher Fung says, are players who drop down from the Champions League to Europa League eligible to play in the chat? You can see the question. Yes, they are. The rule has changed. When we signed Aubameyang from Dortmund, originally he was not allowed to play for us in the Europa League. Effectively, because of that transfer and the chaos that it caused, UEFA changed their ruling on that. And so now players, if we were to sign them from a Champions League club that then dropped down to the Europa League, like Salzburg, for instance, then yes, we could then use them in the Europa League because that has now changed. So, yeah. First Braithwaite, now Mustafi. Joe says, let's get Virgil van Dijk. We get the Arsenal should seek some scammers like other clubs. Unreal. Mustafi changing PK and becoming a legend. Let's sign Braithwaite. Oh, we've got the comedians out this evening. The comedians are out. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's show. We've had a bit of a discussion about January. We've looked ahead to that. Effectively, we're kind of filling time now between us coming back to normality and getting back to watching Arsenal play. Is it just me, or has this genuinely felt like the longest international break of your lives? I mean, coming from a perspective now, writing about Arsenal, writing about football every day, it is a real challenge. Like, being a writer during the international break is so difficult. It's really tough. The motivation is a lot harder, especially because you're a massive club fan like myself. So it's really, really hard. But we've pushed through, and we've got some really good player profiles out over on 101. Today, we looked at Mykolenko, who is a fantastic Ukrainian left-back playing for Dynamo Kiev. We've done one on Erling Haaland that came out yesterday. We've done loads over on 101. Link is in the description for the website. Please click on it. Please go and have a look at some of the stuff that I've been writing. And yeah, enjoy it. It's been some really, really exciting stuff, and I'm loving getting to grips with it all. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Shut up, Chris. You ain't missing it at all. You are not missing it at all. How has the Canadian side got on? I haven't looked at Canada's results over the break. It's been pretty damn long. At least there's no more international breaks until March. Is it March? Because I feel like there's always some like just after Christmas, but I'm hoping it's not till March. Big up yourself, Tashi. Thank you ever so much. The Assembled says, I think Mustafi's going to sign a new contract from Barcelona. Connection means bigger offer from Arsenal. Sam Chester says, we might see the old Xhaka Ceballos pairing against Leeds. Partey questionable and Elneny. Partey's fit. Don't worry about Partey. Partey will be a fit and available as far as I'm aware. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's show. It's been a pleasure. Please drop a like on the video and make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. And if you would like to help support the channel and get access to some exclusive content, then make sure you hit that join button and become a member and yeah, help us out, because it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. 9 o'clock, head over to Owen's channel, Gooner Crack. I'll be there with myself. I mean, yeah, I will be. With also Drew and John. So I'll see you there very, very soon. But as always, up the Arsenal.